Good morning, students. Welcome to the online history class. Today we are going to start a new chapter. This is chapter 7, Feudalism in Medieval Europe. The Middle Ages in European history may be regarded as the age of chaos and anarchy, because after the fall of Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, barbarians had taken over. It was due to barbarian invasions, chaos and disorder prevailed. A little respite from this anarchy came during the reign of powerful King Charlemagne, whose primary goal was to restore the lost glory of Roman Empire and stop barbarian attacks. He was definitely successful in his mission, as under his rule the empire survived many attacks. But the scenario changed after his death. After his death, his grandsons fought over the land and eventually split it up into sections. The empire that Charlemagne built quickly fell apart. Old state of lawlessness and chaos started again. Lack of single leader or proper administration and the need for protection from the invaders led to the formation of new form of government. This new form of government was called feudalism. Now, what is feudalism? Feudalism is the name given to the economic, political, and social conditions and relations existing in the Western Europe between 9th and 13th centuries. It was the system in which powerful lords commanded the obedience of less powerful lords. People received protection in exchange for services. After Charlemagne, barbarian raided Europe again. There was a need for order and protection. Common people were not safe. Remember, there was no government or soldiers. Lord and landowners defended the common people, like peasants. In return, these peasants worked in the land for the lords. This system is actually called feudalism. And this feudalism was not only prevalent in western part of Europe, but it existed in many countries of Asia like India, China. Now, to know in detail about feudalism, we must know the origin of the word feudal. The word feudal comes from the word feud, which means a fief or land. Fief is the land granted to a vassal or knight to live on or oversee or to take care of. We can say a fief or a piece of land was the central element of feudalism. It was a vassal's source of income granted to him by his lord in exchange for his services. Now, who were these feudal lords? After Charlemagne's death, there was no powerful king who could give protection to common people. It was the powerful landowners who gave them protection in return of their services. These landowners were known as feudal lords. Another word which is important to know here is vassal. Now, who is vassal? Vassals were the people who received lands from the feudal lords. We can say that there was a kind of contract between feudal lords and their vassals. What kind of contract? Well, the contract is vassals would give service to the lords, and in return, lords would provide them security. This was their contract. Now, to understand feudalism, the most important thing that we need to understand is the feudal hierarchy. There existed hierarchical order in feudal society. King was at the top and owned all the land in the country. And it was he who made the laws. He gave an area or land to the lords. In return, the lords who came next to the king agreed to supply the king with soldiers and horses for his army. Now these nobles, they gave some land to professional soldiers who were called knights. Knights came after nobles. In return, these knights fought for nobles and the king. Peasants belonged to the lowest section of this society. They worked the land for the nobles and knights, who in turn gave them protection. This was how this concept of feudalism worked. So king was at the top, then comes lords. They were actually dukes and earls, and after them comes the knights, and then at last comes the peasants or serfs. Now gradually the feudal system became hereditary. That is, the eldest son of the lord succeeded him as the lord. The son of the duke would become the duke. Similarly, the son of a farmer would remain a farmer. Thus grew up a rigid society, somewhat identical with our caste system. It was impossible for a person to come out of his class. What does that mean? It means that who is a farmer, he can never be a duke or he can never be a knight. Similarly, who is a knight, he can never be a king. If you are a knight, then your son has to be a knight. He cannot be a duke or noble person. Now, power of feudal lords. In this system, feudal lords was the most powerful person in his own area. As there was no powerful king, feudal lords exercised the power and rights of a king. How did he exercise that? By taking taxes from peasants and also by giving judgment and punishment whenever required. So we can say that he enjoyed power of a government by ignoring and disobeying king. So how was the administration system? We have already discussed that feudal lords were the most powerful people in their own areas. But one thing we should remember, that there was no unity among feudal lords, and therefore there was no unified administration system. For that reason, what happened? A central government, which was headed by king previously, was now divided into numerous local governments, which were headed by feudal lords. Therefore, power of government, that is the power of king, became private property of feudal lords. That is, they started exercising the power of king in their own region. So that was all for today. We shall continue with this chapter in the next class too. After listening to this video, open your book and read chapter 7, section 7.1 to 7.4. If required, you can refer to a dictionary to find the meanings of difficult words. However, for any queries, mail me in the given email ID. Thank you.